everyone, and welcome to the season finale of Joey Zero's weekly Warframe show. Psych! Just kidding, that's next week. Psych! It's not next week, you guys know that. So today's episode is about modularity. You know, modular weapons. We're gonna be talking about zaws and kitguns and amps and all the stuff you can build in Warframe piece by piece, part by part, like a lot of other things in Warframe. For some players, that's a really highly personal experience. Others are just kind of on the lookout for what's good, and then they make that and move on. And really, there's nothing wrong with either approach there. As long as you're having fun, that's all there really is to it. But before we get into the rest of this week's episode, I'd like to challenge you, dear viewer, to apply a bit of that same modular logic to a part of the game that I know some of you might have overlooked a little bit, operators. I've been pretty excited lately about having finally finished out the focus system aside from a few remaining focus capacity, and I'm looking to do a series of guides soon about what all the different trees and different nodes do and kind of what are some fun things that they could synergize with. But before I do, I'd like to posit a fun, interesting idea, and that is, you know, using your operator for like a build your own frame kind of deal. After all, with all the waybounds unlocked, your operator can almost be like bringing a second Warframe to your missions with its own powers, its own strengths and weaknesses, its own healing or damage or CC or tankiness. And we have the ability to mix and match these together as we see fit in much the same way we can mix a Warframe's strengths and weaknesses with those of our weapons to help cover for a frame's shortcomings or to further strengthen an already powerful build. You with me so far? Here, try to think of it like a modular Warframe where the parts that you could use are the focus school, the arcanes, and, you know, maybe some of the amps to tailor that Warframe to be what you want. If all you use your operator for are those 6x3 tricaps, there's nothing wrong with that, but this probably isn't going to be a very exciting concept for you. Regardless, it's still something that I'd encourage playing around with at some point. If you're still a little bit lost, here are a couple of examples. So let's say you want like a nuke caster kind of play. You could just bring Energizing Dash and Inner Might to keep up your energy on the ESO Saren build, or you could build your operator into something that is kind of similar to the Warframe that would be doing the casting, and bring that caster spam on any frame. The damage and CC from Lightning Dash can be pretty solid against enemies that bear a neutral or better resistance to electricity, and more importantly, the range on them is pretty large, so it's not that difficult to blanket most of a map with those. You can pull enemies in with your Void Singularity, keep them held there, and also lay down some Propa shots for some heavier but more focused damage. It may not be that great against high-level armored targets, but neither is Equinox, and she's renowned for her room clearing. You can then take that Caster Kid build on your typical, I don't know, Despoil Necros, and you basically got some large Warframe-like AoE damage on a frame that isn't built to do the damage. Good for most Star Chart level enemies or against Sortie level Corpus. So that's not for everybody. Let's say you want to take a little more direct of an approach or set up some Warframe operator combos. Magus Lockdown is a really interesting arcane that a lot of people seem to forget also deals puncture damage that scales with enemy health. If you bring some way to keep enemies from flying away whenever you void dash them, then you've got the makings of some decent damage and near infinite spamability. And then there's Vazarin, which lets you bring, no joke, Bless Trin level heals to targets that you void dash through. If you want to do that Excavation Arby, but nobody's willing to bring a healer, then guess what? You're your own pocket healer, even though you're playing Ashe. I know for a lot of players, this isn't really news, but for many players, some of it is. So I guess the question is, how would it change your game if you had an extra mini Bless, or mini Overload, or mini Radial Blind, or mini Larva? Take your pick. If you could pick some Warframe powers to go with any Warframe and build your own frame, what kind of powers would you pick? And is it possible that those powers might exist somewhere in the Focus School, or the Operator Arcanes, or the amps that are out there? I think it's a fun question because it might. Anyway, like I said, I'm going to be covering a lot more of these fun little Build-A-Frame scenarios in the upcoming videos, but I mostly just wanted to put that out there as something to chew on for the time being. Anyway, since we talked about that, just one last reminder, the next episode is going to be the season finale of Joey Zero's weekly Warframe show. I'm going to be taking some time in between to see how we can streamline the process of making these episodes a little bit faster. I'm going to be working on getting some stream stuff fixed, and then we're just going to be jumping right into season 3. Once I release the last episode of the season, we're going to be doing a live watch through of every episode over on Twitch. Xeno's going to be there, Xandy's going to be there, Michelle's going to be there. I hope you're going to be there. But yeah, that's it. Xeno, take it away.
And now it's time for an unpopular opinion.
Because of the sheer quantity of weapons required to get to MR30, DE should change it so that each combination of modular weapon part, blade, handle, pommel, barrel, receiver, and stock should all contribute to the affinity for mastery rank.
You just watched Xenogelion giving an unpopular opinion. Brought to you by Xeneric Brand Energy Soda. Get energized.
You know what they say. If you want something done right, you've got to do it yourself. You may think you have powerful weapons, but you haven't seen anything yet. Welcome, Tenno, to my modular weapon crash course of the week. Let's get started. Yeah, lots of different weapons are already pretty good, but making your own gives you the opportunity to customize a weapon's stats to fit the kinds of builds you prefer. If you like something specific, like pure critical chance melee weapons, you can pick, say, a weapon type with forced slash procs on the stance, such as a twirling spire polearm. Let's do that. And load it up with crit stats. Look at it, Hawk looks like he's in love with that thing. We've included a few resources that show which parts will give you the stats you want in the description. On the other hand, if you just want to make the best all-around weapon possible, I've got you covered. I'm going to try to help you understand modular weapon parts, and then I'll show you some general use combinations of parts once you understand the logic behind them. Most modular weapon parts are balanced as though they have stat points behind the scenes. These are imaginary stat points. This isn't a real game mechanic, it's just a rhetorical device. So for the most part, there aren't any parts that are just better than other parts on their own. They have the same amount of stat points, if you will. The more expensive parts are not directly better than the other parts. Critical chance, status chance, attack speed, fire rate, base damage, magazine size, reload speed, all these stats are really just different ways to get more damage. So knowing that almost all the different parts have the same amount of stat points, you might now think that they all give you the same amount of damage. But there are some combinations that pull out ahead. Again, for non-specific use cases, for general use only, you want a little bit of everything. The less of something you have, the larger marginal benefit you get for adding that thing. This is true of math in general and applies to almost all buildcraft. You want crit and status and some base damage, but not as much as you can get. You want to spread your stat points mostly evenly across your various stats. Choosing parts, then, is just an indirect way to spend your stat points. So if you choose a fast grip, say, you might want to choose a slower strike or chamber, since that slower strike or chamber will be balanced to have higher base damage. It'll have spent its stat points there instead. And the less base damage you have, the more it's worth. You could also think of it as making up for the base damage you lost by choosing a faster grip instead of a more damaging one. There are a few exceptions to the stat point thing, like the Plague Star strikes and the Setfon strike. Those do limit you to certain kinds of weapons over others, but they do give you more stat points overall, unlike all other parts, so they are very good if that's what you're looking for. Okay, so that's the theory behind building powerful modular weapons. You want to go hybrid, don't focus on just one stat. I'm gonna get specific now, but if you follow those principles, you could make something totally different from what I'm now going to recommend, and it'll still be great. For zaws, choose your strike, and then I recommend the slowest grip, so that's Korb or Stung, depending on what kind of weapon you want to make. And then for the links, you could choose either Aquana Jai2 for a build featuring Condition Overload, or Varjeet Jai2 for a build featuring Weeping Wounds. Here's the Condition Overload build for Aquana Jai2, and you can just swap Vicious Frost to Voltaic Strike if the weapon is not mostly slash to swap the weapon's element to Corrosive. And here's the Weeping Wounds version to go with Varjeet Jai2. As you can see, it's the exact same build, but Weeping Wounds has been slotted in where Condition Overload once was, to make up for that lower status chance. And there you have it. Any category of melee weapon that is made with this philosophy will be a top tier weapon, no strings attached. And remember that if you want to run mods that are not in those builds I showed, you can simply substitute them by running arcanes or a frame that gives the bonus that you're taking off in the build. And for kitguns, choose your chamber, and then go with either Love Tap or Ramble for slightly more fire rate, and start with a magazine that gives neutral crit and status chance. You can drop more status chance for more crit the faster your weapon is. This will mostly be determined by your chamber. Finally, remember to make something you like. If you min-max your weapon but you don't enjoy how it feels, just go ahead and change it to suit you better. That's the whole point of the modular weapon system, to make something that you personally enjoy that's uniquely yours. With that, it's time to move on with our show.
Behold, my name is Michel and welcome to the Tech of the Week, the show where I shall dive into interesting Warframe mechanics and synergies, which for this week will concern kitguns. Kitguns have been on my mind recently as I've gotten this Catch Moon configuration, and can I just say that it is such a nice weapon. But aside from dealing a lot of damage, are there any mechanics that will make this kitgun interact with the rest of my gear? Behold, Pax Bold. Pax Bold is a kitgun arcane that increases efficiency and strength on your Warframe by 30% on every headshot when it's max ranked. Now this might not seem to do much for the gun itself, however what I'm looking for in my Warframe builds is a so-called feedback loop within my equipment. To give you an example of what I mean, Hunter Adrenaline or Rage are some of my favorite mods because they provide energy on health damage, and if you put them on a Warframe like Oberon that has an energy ability to regenerate health, you basically have a system that supplies you with constant health and energy. So how does this principle apply to my kitgun and Pax Bold? Well, if you've ever used a Warframe like Chroma or Mirage that can buff your damage output, you know that increasing the Warframe strength will increase the damage buff as well. Now Pax Bold gives you a 5-second time window to cast your ability, in which you gain a 30% strength and efficiency buff. If we look at my Chroma with this particular build, it gives a 1094% damage buff to my weapons, but with Pax Bold it comes up to 1177%. It might not be too much, however if you consider that my armor buff is also boosted from 1393% to 1498%, and I can use the strength on my second ability as well to increase my health, those small buffs will make for a really nice improvement, as well as much higher damage on my appropriately named kitgun. Mirage is another Warframe that I really like to use with this setup. Her Eclipse will provide a 746 damage buff with my build, but with Pax Bold it will go up to 806%. Along with that, every clone in my Hall of Mirrors does 64.6% of my damage, which is calculated before energy conversion and Pax Bold, so that will be even more in the field. Overall, I find this a super nice mechanic, as I can use a headshot to cast a stronger damage buff, boost my entire loadout, and then my next headshot will be even more powerful. Unfortunately, this does not stack, which would have gotten it way off the rails in no time if it actually did, but out of the Pax Arcanes, Pax Bold is definitely one of my absolute favorites, and I would recommend you try it out. My name is Michel and you've been Dandy, and I will see you all next week.
So with kitguns and zaws, you can build just about anything that you want to. And to kind of put that idea to the test, I built the weapon that I kind of really want more than anything in the game, which is a weapon to train my aim better. I know, so many of you guys are rolling your eyes right now. It's just, hey, bear with me. So it's no secret that my aim isn't all that great, and I want to get better at it because of how much damage you're missing out on by not doing headshots. Headshots are great. You double your damage, quadruple your damage on critical hits, make your slash procs tick at least twice as hard, and I'm bad at getting them out in the field, and I want to fix that, so let's make a weapon to help fix that. So enter my favorite kitgun, Critical Overdrive. So this was a kitgun that I built around one basic idea. Can I build a beam weapon with comparable headshot reward to other headshot-focused secondaries like the Nell and the dual Toxices? And it turns out that yes, you can. Now, before we get into it, a bit of spoiler warning, this isn't a kitgun that's optimized for damage outright. It does do a lot of damage, but if you're looking for the best kitgun killer build, then this isn't the build for you. I won't rob you of the pleasure of going through that journey for yourself, but there are a lot of other videos out there that can help you with that if that's the thing that you're looking for. This is just a fun weapon that's pretty solid at killing things and helps you work on developing better aim. So first, let's take a look at the build. We've got a couple of things going on here, and already I know at least a couple of you are screeching about the Acolyte mods, but remember, we're maximizing our headshot value here, not maximizing our damage outright. You get a headshot, and the crit chance goes up to 235%, while the crit damage goes up to 6.3 after getting a kill. Which means that if we're keeping our buffs up, we're going to always have at least orange crits at a 12.6 modifier, if not red crits at an 18.9 times modifier. Already, that's a big difference between headshots and non-headshots. The second thing I want to draw your attention to is the Riven mod. Rivens for kitguns are interesting because while the disposition isn't all that great, kitguns have an interesting relationship with Rivens in that you can build a kitgun around around a good ribbon, or you could just keep rolling the ribbon until it fits your kit gun. I went with the latter because I knew what I wanted to use this kit gun for before ever building it or acquiring a ribbon. For what it's worth, you can easily roll with amalgam barrel diffusion here and more than make up for the lower multi-shot by just making use of more aggressive repositioning, but I'm trying to keep this review pretty short, so we're not going to talk about that. And finally, Pax Seeker. Now normally, this arcane does a pretty decent amount of damage that is affected by your kit gun's mods. However, we aren't going to be using it for the damage. This weapon is here to help train us to look for headshots more, so the primary use of Pax Seeker is to add like a grunt birthday party type of visual feedback for getting headshot kills. One thing to note about it is that while the projectiles do normally try and seek out headshots, they're completely nullified by getting a kill in a room with a low ceiling, or really any ceiling at all. So, feedback it is! Also, I know that some players will suggest that Pax Charge would be a bit more Nell-like here, but one pretty big pitfall of using the Nell to develop better aim is that it doesn't stress ammo economy at all. It's really rewarding of spray-heavy play once you get that first headshot, which is a good thing for the weapon to be, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't help develop the habit of keeping an eye on your magazine or remaining ammo, because it's just so good at that. Others might suggest Pax Bolt, and I'd say that, sure, it removes some very effective visual feedback and can grant you a buff that's maybe a little useful, but that really depends on which frame you're playing, what build you're running with. Experiment for yourself, make your own decisions. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Anyway, so if we put all that together, we get just exactly the weapon we were looking for. A weapon that is comparable to the Nell and the dual Tox Assist for rewarding those headshots. I did the math, and this weapon is actually more rewarding damage-wise than the dual Tox Assist, less rewarding than the Nell, but it doesn't have any of those same spray-encouraging mechanics, and also it's a beam weapon. So that's it! I'm not giving this weapon a rating because it's kit gun. I think that, yeah, that's it. Alright, so that's just about it for this one. Once again, thank you guys so much for watching. Thanks so much for your support. As you guys know, I have a lot of fun putting these together. I'm glad you guys have as much fun watching them. As usual, make sure you check out the other creators that were involved in the making of this episode. You'll find links to the channels and social media of Michel Postma, XandyPants, and Xenogelion all down in the description below. And hope you guys can make it for the live watch through. That'll be really, really rad. But that's it. I'll see you next time. Once again, my name's Joey Zero. Okay, bye.